For the recording, welcome back. We are ACI Course 6, Class 3. Let's gather on September 12th, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being before you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They're gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiating from them, the beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it would be if we could also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to go stop their distress forever. We're learning that this is possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask him, please, teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course they would. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something extra. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them. following it with our comments to practice what they teach us, moving our refuge prayer to make our comment. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of water. Great mountain, 4 lands, wherein the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them an inheritance that will be them, and offer it all to you. By this deed may every living being experience the pure love. Idam Guru Ratnam Dalakam. Go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class online, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class online, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. To the merit that I do in sharing this class on earth, may all beings reach their total enlightenment for the sake of every single other. So what was that wish for enlightenment that Lord Maitreya, with the definition of the wish for enlightenment that Lord Maitreya shared with us in last class? Somebody? Claire.
I would like to reach total enlightenment for the benefit of every living being.
Yeah, good. Good. Then, what's that literal meaning of the Tibetan word for nirvana? And what do the words actually refer to? What are they? First of all, Tracy, our Tibetan expert. Soon to be.
Passing beyond sorrow.
Right. That's the literal.
And basically the cessation of the mental afflictions. So stopping the mental afflictions.
Right. Mental afflictions and something else.
Yeah.
The karma that makes them.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, good. The Tibetan is Nyan Yen Len Depa, right? It means grief, to go beyond grief. But grief means suffering, and as Tracy said, suffering means mental afflictions and the karma that makes them, meaning the behavior that perpetuates them. Yeah? Good, nice. Permanently. Important piece there. Good. Then the third on your quiz was describe the object we deny when we speak of emptiness. What does gakcha mean? That slippery word. Joanna.
Gaccha means the thing that we deny, and it's basically every deceived perception that we have. So everything that we think there is existing within our own identity, coming from its own side.
Yeah.
And this is what emptiness is referring to. It never can be something like that. Never was, never will.
Right, right. Anything that could exist independent of any other factor. And then highest, any other factor that we're saying nothing can exist independent of is the seed ripening projection of the experiencer of that object. Gotcha. Good. The answer she said, a thing that could exist A thing that could exist independent of any other factor, especially the factor of it being our labeling it based on our collection of data. I got a little bit more specific there. So what does ethics have to do with emptiness? This whole sutra is drawing that conclusion, that there is a connection. And in particular, we learn that a bodhisattva's activities that they train themselves in are the six perfections. We know them: perfection of giving, perfection of moral discipline, the perfection of, they call it patience. Geshe says not getting angry when the situation would call for it. The perfection of joyous effort, the perfection of meditation, and the perfection of wisdom. And the first four of those all have to do with ways that we interact with others as we go through our day. And then Diamond Cutter's Sutra is going to point out that those activities of giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, joyous effort, they need to be done with wisdom in order to qualify as the six perfections. Right? We can call them the six perfections, but they don't actually help us much unless we're doing them with wisdom. The text will say a bodhisattva practices giving without staying. And now it's a little discouraging. You know, we're trying hard enough to increase our giving, our, sense of generosity, our avoiding harming others, our not getting angry, having a good time doing all of that. And it's hard enough to change old habits. But now it's saying, it's good to try, and it will bring you pleasant result in samsara. And so the pleasant result ends and leaves you suffering. So it's like, well, then why bother? It means we not only train ourselves in these newer or more subtle behaviors, but now we have to do it with wisdom for it to really imprint our minds in what we say we want, which is, I want Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In his early days of teaching, Geshe Michael always used the angry boss example. Now it's the two husbands in the kitchen. But early on, angry boss, because that was his immediate, reality. He was still working when he was teaching these courses, so it was like his daily reality, he would say, is getting yelled at the boss, sometimes for things he did, sometimes for things he didn't do. And it never seemed to really matter that he would get yelled at. But then he says, that's really what I was there for. Not to get yelled at, but he was there working as the Dharma laboratory to give him the opportunity to learn how to burn off his mistaken seeds and plant new. So he was learning how to not get angry with his boss. And so learning how to work with the perfection of patience. What's the difference between trying to not be angry with the yelling boss and trying to not be angry with the yelling boss with wisdom? We understand wisdom means understanding emptiness, the no self nature of the boss, of the me, of what I'm feeling, of the yelling, right? Of every part of every experience, not in it, from it, coming from me, right? It's a long story. We wrap it all into emptiness. But, if you've got the yelling boss in front of you and you're feeling that discomfort, right? Outright displeasure of the situation, and you've got that thing we call anger arising, making you want to do something, you can't just go catatonic and go, this is all empty, nothing's really happening. That is not going to be helpful. And I would also wager that at least at first, we won't even be able to remember, oh, this boss is empty, I'm empty, this is all empty. Seems terrible. If I act the way I want to act, I'm going to make more of it. So I really, really don't want to act that way, because now we're not paying any attention to what the boss is yelling us about, and that's going to make them madder. Will you listen to me? Because you're like off in la la land thinking of karma and emptiness. So it's like thinking of emptiness doesn't make him stop yelling. And thinking of emptiness doesn't make the unpleasantness of the situation just go away. So come on, what's the point of thinking of emptiness as soon as possible in that situation? Now, mostly we think of the emptiness a couple hours later. Oh, whoops, right? But then, we dedicate, and maybe next time we think of it a little bit sooner, and then maybe sooner yet. And we get better and better at using wisdom in the midst of that unpleasant situation, until finally we get good enough at it that we're actually practicing the perfection of patience, meaning the perfectionizer of patience, meaning we're in the midst of that unpleasant situation and we're so keenly aware that it seems like that nasty boss is at it again, blaming me for something, but I totally understand that I can't be experiencing this except as some ripening result of something I did before. And so the last thing I want to do is act in a way that's gonna in the future bring back to me an equally or worse unpleasant experience. We need to have that all worked out so clearly that when we get into that situation, we just have to trigger the, oh, not from that. Here we go again, right? My seed's ripening. I'm going to do the best I can to funnel this feeling that makes me want to blast the guy. And instead, I'm going to blast him with kindness, and somewhere along the line, we choke on that. But slowly, we get better at it. When that experience, the yelling boss, is done, and it will wear out. If we have not done something unkind in an attempt to get it to stop, then when it stops, that whole series of seeds have been burned off. They're done. They're gone. They can never come back. You have just lessened the entire existence by one episode of anger because you have not replanted it. Now, how many times do you have to do that before your boss changes? Yeah, we don't know, right? I like to think, this is the last one. And then, it happens again. It's like, oh, well, maybe not. This one's the last one, right? Oh, well, maybe not. This one's the last one. It keeps us going, right? To kind of play that game with ourselves. But again, even having that clearly in mind, it's still a struggle because just understanding its emptiness and karma, and so an opportunity to plant new, does not make it any less painful. It doesn't change that energy we call anger into something else just by thinking it. But that thing we call anger, it also is just seeds ripening, label put onto information. We can get to a place where that, what we call anger, can be perceived at a subtler level, an energetic level, before it gets the label anger. It can be something else, right? It can get the label power, strength, courage, resilience. Wow, there's nothing in that feeling called anger that has to be anger. But that too is only going to happen as we work with not reacting the way the feeling that we believe is anger makes us believe we should act. Like everybody believes that when you're being disrespected or injustice towards, you should stand up for yourself and you should beat up the other guy and you should yell back, right? And that's part of why it's so difficult, is like, well, if I don't stand up for myself and yell back, I'm going to get the reputation of being this sissy and everybody's going to walk all over me. And it's like, actually, not true. Because to get walked all over, you can only have that experience from your own seeds ripening. And so, well, if in the past we walked over somebody who seemed to be weak because they were kind to the boss, the matter the boss got, then of course we're going to have that experience. But you can't blame the other people, and we can't just automatically assume that's going to happen. Right? You might surprise yourself where your whole team goes, oh my gosh, you tried to help him when he was angry with you? That's amazing. Who are you? Teach us how to do that. That would be the hope, wouldn't it? So Buddha goes into this next in his sutra. He doesn't give a lecture on it, but he goes into the amount of merit one makes by giving with wisdom, as composed to the goodness we get by giving ordinarily. It's a goodness, it's a kindness to be generous. And it will come back to us as abundance. But it will be abundance that wears out and leaves us suffering for more. giving with wisdom brings a result that doesn't wear out. And that's just really hard to conceive of. Results that perpetuate. Not from their own side, but because of how we respond to them. So in the sutra, Buddha says to Subhuti, say, Subhuti, do you think it would be easy to measure the space from here to the east? And Subhuti goes, no, that wouldn't be very easy. And what about to the south and the west, right? He goes through all the directions. And Subhuti keeps saying, no, that'd be pretty hard. And Buddha says, right, it would be really hard. Because how far is it from where you are to the east? I mean, there's no boundary of east. So it's not that it would be hard to measure, it's impossible to measure. Because we're talking infinity here. So Buddha, you think we could measure that? Buddha goes, no, I don't think so. And Buddha says, right. And the amount of merit that a bodhisattva makes by doing their giving with wisdom makes that much merit. Like infinite merit. The amount of merit equals to measuring distance from east to west. That's a lot of merit. Now, when we use the word merit, the designation between merit and good karma is that merit is a goodness done with wisdom. So it's kind of a circular argument here, but is it a good deed to give, to share something? Yes. And we learned all those different parameters that go into, how much goodness, according to the power of the object, the need, and our point of view. And then when you put your understanding of emptiness, independent, and dependent origination onto the three spheres of you, the givee, and the giving, then the imprint that's being made by that doesn't even qualify as karma. It's now called merit. When you do those with your wisdom activated, intact. Now, you could take the debate ground. Can that only happen if I've seen emptiness directly? Or can I get like almost infinite merit by applying my intellectual understanding? And I think we would reach the conclusion that the more the better. We don't technically need to make infinite merit to become Buddhas. We just need enough good ones, enough merit that are multiplying, that they'll become infinite. So the extent to which we have emptiness and karma in mind as we're, trying to chill in the face of the yelling boss, so that when we can finally get a word in edgewise, instead of reaming them a new one, we say, man, I'm sorry you're angry with me. What can I do to help? You're not fibbing. Maybe you don't really want to help, but you are the employee, so you're obligated. But having said that, instead of what you were dying to say, because you thought, I don't want to perpetuate this coming out of me, not them. Much as I want to blame them, I can't. I'm going to say this instead. That is beyond calculation better seeds to plant than even just being like a bump on a log. Right? We learned that in Master Shantideva. Just shut up. It's a really great karma to just not respond. And it is good. Even to not respond with wisdom is a merit. But to respond with wisdom and kindness, whoa, now you've got rocket fuel, in your bodhisattva jet chute. So what does it mean to recall emptiness? Do you just need to say the word? That'd be easy enough. Write the word on your palm of your hand. And, when they're yelling, you just emptiness, emptiness. Not quite enough. So Geshe explained it in this way. He said, in his case, he shared office space with others. And of those others, one of them, didn't particularly know him very well, so he didn't really care too much about what was going on. And then another one who was there in that close space was somebody who downright didn't like Michael Roach. And so there's the boss marching in to yell at Michael Roach. All three of them are hearing it happening. For Michael Roach, right? Number one, the getting yelled at is unpleasant. It's double unpleasant to get yelled at in front of other people, right? So you've got that experience going on. Boss yelling, at us. We're in Michael Roach's shoes right now. It's really unpleasant. It is really unpleasant, he says. Right? Even understanding emptiness doesn't mean, hey, I'm just ripening unpleasantness here. It isn't real. It's like a dream. Okay? It's really unpleasant. It's unpleasant when you're in a dream and you're getting your head cut off, right? Okay, so for him, he's having a really lousy experience. But think about being aware of the neutral person. They really could care less. They're hearing the same yelling happening, but for them, it's just a distraction. It's like they're not paying any attention. So neither negative nor positive. For the person that doesn't like him, that person is very likely getting a little pleasure out of that. That arrogant guy, he's gone all the time. He's getting what he deserves. Good. So the question is it like there's one boss there? Everybody has the same boss. There's yelling is happening. He says, red face, round, high decibels. Yelling is happening. But for Geshe Michael, it's a really unpleasant, uncomfortable experience. For this guy over here, it's like, who cares? And for that guy over there, it's like, yeah. So what's really going on? Can the boss, that one boss, be pleasant, neutral, and unpleasant all at the same time? No. And that reveals the fact that the pleasantness, neutral, or unpleasantness of that situation is not coming from the boss. That's showing the empty nature of the boss. Right there. It's like it's so obvious and simple, says Geshe Michael, that we miss it. We miss the profundity of it. It's like, yeah, of course, everybody experiences everybody differently. Right? Like we knew that all along. But now it's like, how could I have missed how significant that is for, a really long time in my life? So Geshe-la's pointing it out. But then he goes on to say, the Michael Roach who's experiencing this situation as unpleasant, he's ripening karmic seeds, imprints, from having done something similar to somebody else. So just for simplicity, we'll say ripening seeds of having yelled at somebody else. So the unpleasant experience he's forced to have right now in the form of boss yelling at me was created by some situation where he saw himself causing unpleasantness in another by way, similarly, let's just say by yelling at somebody. So he's having a negative result because he made a negative seed. Negative meaning unpleasant, unkind. The guy who's happy that his colleague is getting yelled at, he's having ill will, right? He's like good with the uncomfortableness of Geshe Michael. He's actually ripening good seed because he's happy with the situation. He's happy with the boss yelling at Michael. So he's ripening past seeds of some kind of kindness. But he's planting negative seeds because his reaction to the situation is ill will. Same situation, like kind of, right? He's not the one getting yelled at, but he's in the presence of it happening. Neutral person, ripening neutral, planting neutral, if there's really such a thing. So to respond with wisdom would require that we have enough sense in the midst to say, yes, this is unpleasant. Yes, it looks like it's coming from him. Yes or no, I did what he's blaming me for. That doesn't actually really matter. I know that in fact, this is a ripening result from my own past. And the last thing I want to do is plant another seed for a similar unpleasant experience. So this urge to yell back is the exact wrong thing to do. Right? We'll tell ourselves that, not just because Buddha said so, but because we connect the dot and somehow try on for size a different response. Our meditation time, like if this is a recurring theme, then we can use our meditation time, or at least contemplation time, as a time to imagine scenarios. Okay, next time the boss yelled at me, I'm going to try really hard to think this, and I'm going to try saying what Sarani says to say. I'm sorry you're upset with me. True, right? How can I help? Or what can I do differently? Or, right, something. Can I bring you a coffee? Anything. Plan it out, review it in your mind, rehearse it in your mind, and then see if you can do it. Now, are you guaranteed for the boss to stop yelling and go, wow, you're fabulous. Yes, let's fix this. No, they might get madder. And then you just have to hold your ground. that one, let's say even just a few moments of holding to your wisdom in the midst of a situation like that, let alone full on responding with kindness, is because of our understanding of emptiness and creating our future. That goodness is beyond measurable. We can try. I'm gonna say something nice to my angry boss next time just because it sounds like a good idea. That would be a great goodness, but not a goodness with wisdom. Not this incalculable merit-making goodness. So a little bit of wisdom is enough to make a little bit of merit. The more wisdom we've got, the more the merit is made from the same action. So we're in training. Those 6 perfections are perfectionizers when we're playing with them, exploring them, learning how to do them. They don't get perfected until we're Buddhas. We don't have to do them perfectly to become Buddha. We just have to try. With wisdom, try. Try. There's nothing good that can happen to us that wasn't created by kindness to somebody else in the past. There's nothing unpleasant that can happen to us that isn't the result of some kind of unkindness done to another in the past. Yeah, and we're learning to prove that to ourselves again and again and again from so many different angles that we reach the point where we just can't wiggle out of it anymore. No, there's always some part of us that's like, no, it's got to be from them because blah, 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 right? And we're so good at it. It's like we're convincing. Our ignorance is so convincing. Have you been following the angel debates the devil? That devil, wise and slippery. Okay. And the key factor is this recognizing that when we perceive the boss, angry yelling boss as in them, from them, we're blaming them for my unpleasant experience. We're holding them to be like bad from their side. And in the moments of that happening, at least, we are full on believing that they are full on bad. Like the debate in the monastery is, can a pillar be all red and all white at the same time? No, right? The key factor, all. Can the boss be all nice boss, good boss, nice boss, pleasant boss, and all unpleasant boss at the same time? And we go, no, but I really don't think that he's all bad. Like his dog loves him. I know that. But when we're in the midst of getting yelled at, he is all bad. Right? And it's all in him and it's his fault. And I didn't even do what he's blaming me for. So, right? Ignorant talking. Because there's nothing we can experience that isn't the result of something we were aware of doing to another in the past. And not just this one, right? We mean the mind stream from beginningless time. So each of those 3 beings in the room where Michael's getting yelled at. They're three humans, and they are validly perceiving the boss there. They all agree that guy's the boss. And they're all validly experiencing the boss's yelling. Their interpretation of that information, pleasant, neutral, unpleasant, is happening. And we would say, okay, that's where it's unique to each one. And highest school would say, that's the level we can work at. It's just, he's there, he's yelling, fine, let's work with the pleasant, unpleasant. But when we really stop to consider what's really going on is each of those beings, their sense perceptions are receiving information, and their seed ripenings is putting labels on that information. And so they have these common karmas, boss, upset boss, yelling boss, but then the uncommon karma ripening, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. For right now, let's just leave the data as out there. Technically, it's not out there, independent of being projected out there. But we'll go there eventually in the ACI coursework. But don't get caught up in that. We've learned already when you're looking at this whole, there are certain parts that are getting labeled as that whole. When you say, oh, let's look at where the parts came from, you'll find more subtle pieces that become a more subtle whole. And then you can keep breaking it down. That was that Tanye, Takpe, Takdun, Sawe, Tene, Manye. When you go looking for the thing that gets the label, you won't find it. You will never find the thing that gets the label. You'll find something more subtle getting a different label. And never nothing. Never nothing at all. Then the other important factor is, well, if the angry yelling boss is just my projection, I'll just sit here and change my projection. I'm gonna change the YouTube channel. Like, if you can, do it. If you can, change him into, Buddha bot. But we understand that the system is not such that there's a me that's in charge of what's ripening out of my seed. Don't we wish, right? If we could choose our seeds, just choose Buddha paradise right now, please. And we can all go to the beach instead of do the rest of these ACI courses. If we could, we would. And if it was possible to do that, Lord Buddha would have taught us how, right? And the fact that it's not possible makes us go, well, wait a minute, everything's possible with karma and emptiness. And that's true. And it's still true that you won't ever be able to choose what seeds ripen. Will you be able to manipulate your seeds better and better? Yes. But the very process of how it works is that everything's being influenced by everything else. And then once it's over that threshold, dry cement. Where we make a difference is where we plant our seeds. So by the time a result has happened, too late. but it's the prime opportunity to plant new. Like, not just opportunity. What happens when we have an experience is we respond. And that's planted already. Just to experience the experience is already the beginning of our response, the replanting. So where our power of transformation lies is in our response. Our habit is react. Our reactions are driven by the mistaken belief that the things in it, from it, and so I should do right what my urge tells me to do. We plant seeds by reacting. Then we are not the farmer. We are just perpetuating our suffering. When we decide, I'm going to become a farmer of my future, now we go into respawn mode, which at first there needs to be this little pause. You know, when we react, there's no pause. When we're in plant mode, it's like they say that, there's this, and then we say something, right? It's kind of weird for a while. Let yourself be weird. I give you permission to be weird for a while. And then it'll get more spontaneous and effortless and you won't be weird anymore. But it takes that pause to stop and consider, what do I want to plant? Now, we have all kinds of guidelines for what to plant. So you don't have to stop in the pause and reinvent the wheel. In a situation where your stinginess is coming up, share something, anything. In an event where your anger is coming up, say something kind. So how we respond? No, responding with a certain kind of intention. That's what we mean by ethics. That's why Buddha taught ethics. He taught the guidelines for what kinds of behavior choices to make that will be the ones that will burn off the unpleasantnesses that we're experiencing regularly as samsaric beings and plant the seeds that, if we're doing them with wisdom, will be seeds that will grow into your Buddha you and Buddha paradise emanating. You know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We follow the advice. So in this Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, sutra all about emptiness, you can't have a sutra about emptiness that doesn't also talk about behavior, right? Emptiness is useless if it doesn't inspire us to change our behavior. So Buddha goes, what's a bodhisattva to do? Oh, think of all existing beings. Aspire to bring them to total nirvana, to their Buddhahood. And when you bring them there, there won't be anybody that got there. Get it? And you know, it's like, okay, no self-existent being will get there because they're empty. I can bring them there. All right, I'm getting a glimpse of emptiness. And then he goes to this, you know, can you measure space? How big is space, Subhuti? Oh, space is immeasurable. And Buddha says, right. And the bodhisattva who practices their giving with wisdom makes that much merit. Hot on the heels of there won't be anybody you bring to nirvana. It's like, what's the connection? He doesn't say. He just goes on to something else. Thank goodness for the commentary. I have vocabulary. Everybody, I think I do. Yay. So the cycle of, usually we call it samsara, but guess what says it's been an ongoing Sanskrit error since beginningless time? It's really samsara. And so we can start a trend calling it samsara in Sanskrit, korwar in Tibetan, which means, korwar means a wheel. So the samsaric cycle, you go into the office, the boss marches in, Sarani, you, blah, 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 blah. And Sarani goes, I did not. So-and-so did that. Don't you be blaming me. Hey, I'll go fix it, but it wasn't me, it was them. You know? And maybe boss goes, okay, maybe boss goes, I don't believe you. You know, who cares? It doesn't, right? What happens next is new karma, different karma. But our very reaction, the natural reaction to defend ourselves and blame somebody else, or to yell louder, thinking we could shut them off, is samsara, korwa, the turning of the wheel, making the mistake again. The very mistake we made that this bad experience is a result of, we just replanted. And we didn't have to. That's the beauty of samsara, of korwa, is it's not self-existent either. We've created it with our misunderstanding. So we can set about to uncreate it. And we can burn it off. Some of us have learned that wheel of life teaching. And link number 1, the blind guy walking with the cane, the old man, is the ignorance link. Ignorance meaning misunderstanding things' identities and where they come from. And all the other links like ooze out of that one and roll around perpetuating that wheel until you get back to having added to your ignorance, right? By all this stuff that's happened as we go through the wheel. The wheel, you know, can really be an indicator, an explanation of what's going on moment by moment. And then we interpret it as what's going on through a lifetime, what's going on through 3 lifetimes, lots of different ways to understand the wheel of life. But all of it is describing how it is that we perpetuate this state of mind that's mistaken. And that mistaken state of mind is the very state of samsara. So to cut it at the link number 1, we have to not do the deed that made the seed for the experience that we're having. We have to not do it again. You know, ordinarily we would say, so angry boss yelling at you, don't yell back at them. But technically, as the 2 husbands in the kitchen points out, you can't also get away with yelling at the dog or your kids or the bus driver or the traffic jam. You know, it doesn't have to be boss me, boss, boss me, boss. It's me. Me yelling. Me blaming. Me needing to be forceful. Me, whatever the situation is. It's my seeds ripening. So I would want to stop planting seeds for angry yelling boss in any arena that I might find myself in where I might do that. Blame somebody for something they didn't do. Get angry with somebody, try to overpower them with my speech. All the little nuances of how we feel in the presence of being yelled at. Those are all little pieces that if we have it as a recurring theme, we are somehow doing it more subtly, smaller ways to somebody else. Now, sometimes it really was all past life stuff or earlier this life stuff, and you really aren't doing any of that now. And then the job really is to just, okay, every time here it comes again, let's burn this one off, right? Because you've gotten good at not responding. There are a finite number of those that you will have to do. Hard as that might be, if we can wear off each one, they're going to get less and less and fewer and less frequent. And then we might get to a place where we say, well, I still read about angry people, or I hear other people have angry people. I don't have any anymore. But I still think there are some out there in my world. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Then we might want somebody to yell at us. Like, we'd go looking for angry people, says Master Shantideva, so that we can be sure whether or not our seeds are gone. Louisa, would you get upset and yell at me, please? And hey, no, I'm not going to do that. It would be weird. We don't put ourselves in harm's way. I don't mean that. But how would we know if we've burned out off all our angry, yelling person seeds if we're never yelled at? So the natural habit of trying to avoid unpleasant situation, nothing wrong with avoiding unpleasant situation until we realize, wait a minute, if they come on, it's an opportunity to burn them off. And if they don't, great. And part of the joyous effort perfection is reaching this place where it's just as much fun to do our efforts of the 6 perfections with wisdom, whether we're in a pleasant situation or an unpleasant situation. That's real joyous effort. I'm having a good time getting yelled at right now, because I know I'm burning it off and I'm not going to replant it. Now, again, that does not mean if you're being physically harmed, right, threatened, that just stay there and take it. But with more minor unpleasantnesses that we're so careful to avoid, maybe we don't need to be so careful to avoid them, especially if in avoiding them, we allow ourselves to do something unkind to somebody else. That's more subtle. So in order to be chopping away at our ignorance so that our perfection of patience or giving or moral discipline, etc., can become more immediate, we want to cultivate this deep understanding of these different kinds of bodhicitta. Where is it? You know what? Let's take our break. I got lost in my notes. Well, let's take our break. I'll stop my share. Pause recording. So imagine what it would be like if you only had good karmic seeds in your mind, not just dirty good ones, but merit seeds in your mind. If the world is blank and all you have in your mind anymore are seeds from kindness, seeds from having tried to bring happiness to others, those seeds ripening force you to perceive yourself in a paradise, like a pure world. And that's how we get to Buddhahood. That's what it is to be Buddha in paradise. Is the mind has only merit seeds to ripen. And then you spontaneously, effortlessly replant them. I mean, they don't all go off at once, but right, you are replanting them constantly. Once we reach Buddhahood, we're not done. We still exist by this process of imprints and ripenings. Technically, anyway, we won't go there. Our Buddhahood will be forced on us in the same way that our samsara is forced on us. Yeah. Hooray. So that collection of goodness is called the collection of merit. The merit that we gather to ripen, that will be what ripens us into Buddha me and Buddha paradise emanating. It's called the collection of merit. So we don't say, technically, we don't say, I'm working to make really good karma. We shift to practicing the collection of merit, which is what it means to do your giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, joyous effort with some level of understanding of the reason we're doing it is because of emptiness and dependent origination. So meaning with wisdom. Then the wisdom that we're repeatedly trying to apply is also being imprinted, right? It's results and it's being imprinted and the imprints are growing. And so we also are collecting the collection of wisdom. And the boss is yelling, you're applying your wisdom. You don't yell back. You've planted seeds now of kindness in the face of unpleasantness because of some amount of wisdom. You've planted some merit and you've planted some wisdom, right? So it's not like you do one over here and the other over there, right? They're happening kind of together. We work on our perfection of wisdom by way of the last two perfections, meditative concentration and wisdom, meaning we work on our intellectual understanding of emptiness in our meditations, and we use that to trigger a direct perception, which is what actually brings on wisdom. But we're growing those seeds by way of our meditative concentration intellectually on emptiness. We are growing seeds that will ripen into our actual wisdom. When that happens, we become Arya. If we do it with the mind imbued with bodhicitta, we become Bodhisattva Arya. And now our perfection of giving moral discipline is actually perfectionizing us. Before that, we're on the train to those givings with wisdom, being perfectionizers, but they're actually taking us to wisdom, taking us to the direct perception of emptiness. And then from there, the seeds that we plant ever after are taking us to Buddhahood, right? So don't get discouraged. Okay? Our efforts to intellectually hold emptiness in mind are serving the purpose of growing our wisdom. So the collection of merit is said to be the deeds that we do of giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, trying to have a good time doing those, while we're applying our intellectual understanding of emptiness and karma as why we're doing them. And then the collection of wisdom is said to be our efforts on our meditation cushion to bring a single pointed state of mind through the analysis of emptiness to reach the conclusion of no self nature of whatever our object was, and then have that eventually take us to that direct perception of emptiness. And it requires some component of perfection of effort in that, in the sense that we reach a point where our meditation practice becomes enjoyable, okay? And our study in emptiness becomes enjoyable, leading to our actual wisdom. The collection of merit we learned in some previous class leads us to the form, our form body of our Buddha being, the appearing body. And the collection of wisdom leads to our mind of Buddha. So how do we make this transition from just deciding I don't want to react in the usual way because I believe all of this stuff, to I'm so convinced that my usual reaction perpetuates suffering for everybody that I've just got to stop. Right? It's just a different level of ability to keep our self-control and direct our behaviors. Our tradition is we get it intellectually first, and then we try it on for size. So what we learned before is when we do any deed with bodhicitta, it becomes a cause for our Buddhahood. Remember that class? And then we learned that what doing a deed with bodhicitta means is at the beginning our intellectual understanding, and eventually it means no, with what we now know from having experienced emptiness directly. Now our imprints include what we now know to be true. So there are two bodhicittas. We also learned that there are different ways to divide bodhicitta, to think about bodhicitta. These two I think we've heard before, Dindam Semke and Gunzo Semke. Dundam means ultimate bodhicitta. And Kunsop means the deceptive bodhicitta, the faking us out bodhicitta, which gives the wrong connotation. Dundam bodhicitta is code word, because when we think bodhicitta, we think the wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. But Dundam means ultimate. It's referring to ultimate reality, and ultimate reality is the no self nature of every existing thing, being, self, moment, everything, the emptiness of all existence. And so technically, what we call ultimate bodhicitta means the direct perception of emptiness. Being in the direct perception of emptiness is ultimate bodhicitta. It's like the ultimate state of mind. If I could get away with calling direct perception of emptiness a state of mind, it's the ultimate state of mind of your wish to reach Buddhahood, because it's so necessary, right? As the doorway to the conveyor belt, but also in terms of to be a Buddha means that you're perceiving the emptiness and the appearing nature of all existing things at all times simultaneously. So to do that, one needs to be perceiving emptiness directly at the same time as perceiving appearing reality. And only an omniscient mind can do that. And an omniscient mind is created from our seeds of wisdom, which are grown by way of our efforts in our collection of merit, which our collection of merit are our deeds done with our growing understanding of emptiness, which is our growing wisdom. So it's also a cycle. Wisdom makes behavior merit. The goodness trying to do merit ripens as more wisdom. They come together. So Dundam Semke, ultimate bodhicitta, means the direct perception of emptiness. Kunsop Semke, Kunsop, we had it before in deceptive reality. Deceptive, the Kunsop is often translated as relative reality. And, Geshe, that's one of those gets him hopping mad, because yes, it's true that reality is all relative. There's no tall without short. There's no red without blue. There's no, right, sun without day without night. Everything is relative. But knowing that doesn't help us stop our suffering. Kunsop has the connotation of faking us out, deceptive. What's deceptive about reality? That we see things and as with their identities and characteristics in them, which means we should blame them. And we should push back from somebody who's pushing. And we should go after our own pleasure because nobody else is going to do it for us. If unpleasantness comes from them, pleasantness comes from them, avoid this, get that. And then our mistaken view thinks that what we do in the moment works. To avoid that, get this. And it's kind of a pity that it works as well as it does, because most of the time we do something to get what we want and we do get it. and it perpetuates the misunderstanding. Yeah, I turn the key, my car starts. I do it hundreds of times, thousands of times before the key doesn't start the car, but then it's the battery. Right? We allow ourselves to perpetuate our misunderstanding. So we understand that about deceptive reality. I'm deceiving myself. They say the reality is deceiving us, but it's not doing it. I'm deceiving myself by believing that you are in you and I am in me. And I can blame you if something unpleasant goes on. But when we apply that to bodhicitta, deceptive bodhicitta, it sounds like your bodhicitta is wrong, or your bodhicitta is unreal, or your bodhicitta is misunderstood. But what they mean here by kunsop semke is the wish to reach total enlightenment that we have as we are in this appearing reality. So it's the thought in our mind. I want to be a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. That's deceptive bodhicitta. It's real, right? It's real bodhicitta, but it's happening in deceptive reality. And so we call it deceptive bodhicitta. Right? We've got to work that one through in our mind so that you don't think there's something wrong with your bodhicitta. The only thing that's wrong with the bodhicitta is if we still have a mind steeped in ignorance, we're somehow thinking self-existently about my wish and about my me and about my Buddhahood. And so in that way, our bodhicitta is still deceptive because it's not quite the bodhicitta that's really going to get us there. But it's such a good start because it's so different than the usual me, right? That we had since beginningless time. Dindam Semke and Kunsop Semke. That's one of your homework questions. Then we said the seeds in our the seeds in our mind are all merit and wisdom. Then we will be forced to perceive our body as a body of light, Buddha body, and perceive our mind as omniscient mind. And those two, I said earlier, come out of the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. And I wanted to give you the Tibetan for those two. Sunam Ki Sok is the collection of merit. Sunam means merit. Sok is gathering, so the collection of. And it's considered to be the deeds that we do, with some amount of wisdom, of giving moral discipline, not getting angry. And they say part of joyous effort. And I don't quite understand what they mean by that, but joyous effort. And then the collection of wisdom, Yeshe Kisok. Yeshe means wisdom. Yeshe, when they use that term, it's the wisdom that one has once we've seen emptiness directly. There's another word for wisdom, which is sharab. And sharab is the wisdom we're growing intellectually. Right? It's more like knowledge, conceptual knowledge. So our collection of wisdom is the collection, the yeshe, from seeing emptiness directly. And so those seeds are made through the power of our meditative concentration effort, which isn't just on cushion time, it's the growing our mindfulness. And then the emptiness meditations leading to the direct perception and what we do with that. And then again, the effort, the joyous effort piece. So that joyous effort perfection gets tagged to both of them, which is why they say it's part. But it's not like half of it's here and half of it's there. It's just used in both. So the sutra has gone from bring all beings to nirvana and there won't be anybody that gets there, which is why you can bring them to nirvana. And then how far is it to the end of space? Far. Yeah, that's how much merit you need to make. Oh, okay. And then the next thing he brings up, he says to Buddhi, you know, how do you know when you're looking at a Buddha's body? And Subhuti says, well, because you see those 112 marks, 32 major and 80 minor marks, unique signs on their body that only Buddhas have. So if you see those, you know you're looking at a Buddha. Now, it's a little slippery because I hear myself say that and I think, okay, when I see Joanna and she like shows me the bump on her head and the thing on her, right? It's like, oh, I know I'm seeing a Buddha. But we're also talking about when you look at yourself. Oh, look there. You're seeing yourself as Buddha. Those 32 major and 80 minor marks, they are manifestations of the goodness made that is ripening as this Buddha body. And when Buddha has said, so Buddha has said to Subhuti, how do you know? You see these 32 and 80 marks and signs that only a Buddha have, and you know that Buddha taught that there are no signs at all. There are no marks at all. You see these 112 marks, they tell you there's a Buddha there, and you know that those marks are not there, right? It's like, why did that come out of, can you measure space? And why did that come out of, when you get everybody to nirvana, nobody gets there? It's like, where's Buddha's mind? You know, am I supposed to be following this? Where do those marks and signs come from? They have to be results of goodness, not just plain old goodness, but they have to be results of goodness done with wisdom, because that's what it is to become a Buddha. And so when someone sees those signs, they would have to have extraordinary goodness to see it in somebody else, first of all. And then even more extraordinary goodness to see it on themselves, although those are very close. To see somebody else with those signs means you're very close to seeing yourself with those signs. But if we see someone with those signs and we think, oh, wow, they're a Buddha because they have these signs, and we're thinking that those signs are their own qualities and characteristics and they are Buddha from their own side, then we are mistaking the signs that we see. There are no signs at all. He says it twice, which is curious. if we see a Buddha with that, a being with that Buddha bump, you know, Samadhi has a little one. Is it coming from the being that we're seeing has it? Do we think it is? Yeah, I just said it. Samadhi has one. I didn't say I see Samadhi as having one, which would have been more accurate, right? The wisdom. So where's that Buddha bump coming from? If I can see it, it's my seeds ripening. Yeah, but they have to be Buddha in them. No, they don't. Do they? It's so slippery. Surely Shakyamuni Buddha saw himself as Buddha. But he didn't see himself as self-existent Buddha. He saw himself as seeds ripening Buddha. And so he knew that not everybody who saw that manifestation would necessarily see him as Buddha also. And a lot of people didn't. Fortunately, some people did. And were wise enough to ask for teaching. So the marks and signs on a Buddha's body that shows us they are a Buddha don't exist at all in the sense of being from the being that we see them on. They're coming from us. Whether we see them on us, they're coming from us in terms of our seeds ripening, or we see them on somebody we're calling other. They're coming from us. If we can experience it, if we can see it, there are seeds ripening. If that other being sees it on them too, that's their seeds ripening. Why are we going into that? Because our Buddha knew that people's tendency was to think Buddha, once you're Buddha, you're self-existent Buddha. That Shakyamuni Buddha is Buddha in him. He had to make all those great seeds. That's true. But the Buddha I see is not the Buddha Shakyamuni Buddha seed. Okay. So where does it come from? Either the one that they see on themselves or that we see on them. Are they coming from the same place? No, because the ones they see on them, coming from them, the ones I see on them is coming from me. So whose collection of goodness makes the Buddha I might see in my world? Mine. So no wonder I don't see Buddhas in my world. Yeah, I don't have the seeds for it yet. They could be all around me. And I just don't see them that way. So what makes the marks and signs of a Buddha's body, whether I'm seeing it on somebody else or they're seeing it on themselves or I'm seeing it on myself, we heard it's the collection of merit. And the collection of merit is the practicing giving with wisdom, moral discipline with wisdom, not getting angry with wisdom, and having a good time doing all of it. So the collection of wisdom, when those seeds are ripening, they ripen into your appearing body of your Buddha you, and it will have two forms. Your collection of wisdom that's ripening at the same time is the source of your mental aspect, your conscious aspect of your Buddha you. And it also has two forms, two aspects. And so we've got these four factors. They call them the four bodies of Buddha. Two appearing natures, two mind natures. And the collection of merit makes the two appearing natures, and the collection of wisdom makes the two mental natures. So let's do the vocabulary here. The long word is Sanskrit. The short word is Tibetan. And when I hear Geshe Michael mention these, he almost always uses the Sanskrit, which is why I'm giving you both. So the two form bodies are the Nirmanakaya and the Sambhogakaya. Now they use the word body because it's here, kaya, body, but it feels like the wrong kind of connotation. You know, it kind of seems like, you know, there's one body here, and if you go around the back, there's this other body over here, and then the mental body is somehow out here. That this body, to my mind, is a little too concrete or solid. I like aspects, or sometimes they say parts. It's hard to really quite grasp. So just stay with bodies for right now. But if you find your mind going, that's all right, work with it. Nirmana means to go out. So the go out body, it means the emanation body. In Tibetan, it's choku, which they use this term choku to mean a reincarnate lama. Here, the term, technically the term means a Buddha's emanation aspect, which means chukus can only come about from a fully enlightened being. But when they use the term for a reincarnated lama, it's the implication is not that they're considered a fully enlightened being returned. They're this high lama lineage, you know, still in the process of becoming totally enlightened, except for their disciples, right? Their disciples see them as fully enlightened already. But just don't get confused by the term, because you'll hear chuku, you know, that guy's a chuku. So Nirmanakaya means this body that goes out. And that's referring to how the compassion that went into our perfection of merit and the development of our wisdom radiates. And that being appears in any way necessary for the being who perceives it according to what that being needs. And it happens effortlessly and spontaneously. They say like the moon reflects in a body of water. The moon doesn't look around for bodies of water and say, I'll go shine down there. This one, not that one. The result, the ripening of our collection of merit makes it such that we'll show up somewhere spontaneously, effortlessly, where someone is in need, where someone has the goodness. I don't know, it's hard to describe. So there is this aspect of your Buddha that will be everything for everybody. And Geshe says, you know, it's nothing to a Nirmanakaya to wait in the subway for, you know, decades for you to come along, to get on the sub with you, step on your foot, give you an opportunity to get angry, and you don't. And it's like, that's what they do. And I don't know, are they really there waiting all that time, or do they just show up when you need one? You know? And how cool would that be for that to be part of our existence? It's just like, I'm the puppy that little kid needs right now. I'm the rain on those crops that are necessary right now. I'm right. And being omniscient, they're aware of it. So Nirmanakaya is our emanation being. It's a result of great goodness. It comes out about because of our compassion, our love. Sambhogakaya is the paradise body. Paradise body means that your ripening of your collection of merit will project you as having a form that is infinitely and exquisitely pleasurable, perpetuating that pleasure in a world that's exquisitely beautiful and pleasurable, and perpetuating that pleasure and beauty. So the Sambhogakaya we call the paradise body. That's the Buddha in their paradise. Right? You and your paradise will look a certain way. And your appearance will be emanating. Not one or the other, spontaneously, effortlessly, like the moon shining in the bodies of water. This Sambhogakaya, they call it the supreme emanation body. It has 5 qualities, meaning they're called the 5 certainties, meaning every Buddha, what it is to be a paradise being is to have these 5 qualities, to be manifesting these 5 qualities. The first is that the place where it stays is always a place called Oakman. I didn't write it, I should have. Let me put it here. Oakman. It means the heaven below none. And it's not like there is one Oakman and every Buddha is there. It's that every Buddha where they are is a heaven below none. And they're all called Oakmen. But it's not necessarily the same place, although probably they're all aware of each other. The second certainty is that the other beings there with them are always at minimum Bodhisattva Aryas. So meaning someone who has seen emptiness directly with the mind imbued with bodhicitta, that being can actually go to a Buddha paradise and take teaching. Other Buddhas clearly, right, will be aware of other Buddhas. So they'll be there too. The third certainty is that this is the body that has the perfect 112 mark. Those 112 marks are the manifestations of the kindnesses done that created the emanation body and this paradise body. They represent, they don't represent, they reveal the spiritual qualities that that being grew in the process of their behavior change from suffering being to fully enlightened being. Fourth, in that paradise, they are always teaching. To the Bodhisattva Aryas who go there. Seems to me that Bodhisattva Arya, if to go there you need to be either asleep or meditating, you would sleep or meditate a lot. At least until you don't have much more to learn or have anything more to learn, right? Curious. Number 5, it stays until samsara ends. Like then what happened? I don't know. Ooh, boy, it's running. Let's get going. Mental body. Let's talk about the 2 mental bodies. Here, Swabhavakaya and Jnana Dharmakaya. Tongue twisters, both of them. Swabhavakaya means the essence body. No in Tibetan. No Niku. Essence body. And Jnana Dharmakaya means wisdom. Jnana means wisdom. Wisdom of the Dharma body. Meaning their omniscience. So Jnana Dharmakaya is the omniscient body. Yeshe Chuku. There's the wisdom body. So we have essence body and wisdom body. Now, Geshe-la explained we can't really understand the essence body, Svabhavakaya, until we understand the wisdom body. Both of these are ripening results of our seeds planted by way of our perfection of meditation and wisdom with the joyous effort thrown in. The Yeshe Chuku is this mind of omniscience, which means it's experiencing the empty nature of all existing things and the appearing nature of all existing things in all times. So past, present, future, simultaneously. Another way of saying it is that they are experiencing ultimate reality and deceptive reality simultaneously. Only an omniscient mind can do that. Non-omniscient minds have to toggle between the empty nature and the appearing nature. We can't hold them both at the same time. That omniscient does not grant them omnipotent. They are not all powerful. If you think about it, that perceiving ultimate reality means the emptiness of all existing things for this omniscient being. And then the appearing nature, we would have to say, well, there's the appearing nature of their reality from their side, which is all pure. And in their omniscience, they're also aware of any being who's not perceiving their world as pure, right? Their Buddhas are aware of me perceiving my world in the self-existent way. So they are perceiving us, perceiving our impure world, simultaneous with perceiving all pureness. So it really, you got to grapple with that, because it's all happening together at the same time. And when you think about it, it's like, oh, I can see how the different bodies come about. The emanation body is necessary because they're aware that there's a being that I see as pure who doesn't see themselves as pure, and they need help. Ooh. The paradise being sees them all as pure. Let's talk Dharma, right? Let's have debate. Let's play Dharma together. But the ones that are there with the Buddha, because it's all sentient beings, some of them don't see themselves that way, and Buddhists see them doing that, and the emanations are there for them. So far we've got two of the body. And then it takes the omniscience for all of that to be happening. So there's our third body. And then what's the Bhavakaya that is so necessary for these other three to happen? It's called the essence body. The essence body means the empty nature of all of it. Geshe says the essence body is the empty nature of the other three, the emptiness of the other three. Technically, it's also empty. So the emptiness body is the emptiness of all aspects of Buddha. Because if Buddha isn't empty of self-existence, then Buddha can't be Buddha. But they call it a separate body. The essence body of Buddha is the emptiness of the other parts of the Buddha, which are necessary for them to be, right? And it's being perceived directly always, because that's what it is to be omniscient. Perceive the emptiness of all existing things all the time. And you, the Buddha, your essence body is an existing thing, the absence of self-existence of all existence. See how big is the mind of Buddha. See how big is the mind that you will be, that you will have when you gather your collection of merit and your collection of wisdom. And if you can hear somebody tell you about that and you don't run away screaming, you already have such goodness in you that you're not so far away. And the sutra is going to go there later, quite a bit later. Anybody who hears this sutra and studies this sutra and doesn't get afraid is wondrous in the highest. Yeah, so like, give yourself some credit. You're not running away. Cool. So give me a couple of minutes yet here, please. Geshe points out that emptiness is always arrived at by the use of a double negative, right? The emptiness, intellectual emptiness, has to be arrived at by the use of a double negative, because you can't use words that we put onto something to reveal the absence of something that we thought was there that was never actually there in the first place. So it takes this confusing double negative always to get our minds to catch the nuance of the the absence, something not there. Geshe-la's example was, consider the Dalai Lama. Am I allowed to say that in this group? Consider the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is not our projection. That's the emptiness of the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is not our projection. The dependent origination, the deceptive reality, the appearing nature, the Nirmanakaya Sambhogakaya explanation is the Dalai Lama is our projection forced by our karmic seeds ripening. So our Buddha body will be our projections forced by our collections of merit and wisdom. Our Buddha bodies will not be our projection, which is how and why we can create them. Because we're the only ones that can create the seed for our future projection. Our Buddha body will be ripening seeds. When we have merit and wisdom full on, they will ripen as our Buddha body, our 4 Buddha bodies. And those 4 Buddha bodies will not be forced on us by those ripening seeds. Our Buddha bodies will not be anything but ripening projection. Does that make us think, oh, so my Buddha me is not really ever going to be real because projections are not real? No, projections are real. Self-existent things are not real. Not only not real, impossible. You have never actually experienced a self-existent thing. Ever. But I don't know about you, we thought we have since beginningless time. We've been mistaken. Who wants to admit they've been mistaken since beginningless time? Let's admit it right now. I've been mistaken since beginningless time. I've never seen anything right, accurately, correctly. It's so discouraging. But here we are, ripening a class on Diamond Cutter Sutra. All right. Okay, so I already said why the Buddha said no marks at all, because they are deceptive in that they appear to exist as if they're independent of projections, but in reality, they are nothing but the projections of whoever's seeing them, whether it's me seeing it on Buddha or Buddha seeing it on them. It's the projection of the experiencer. Which makes them deceptive reality, which means they are not in and of themselves there. No mark. Then he said it again. Second, no marks at all. The commentaries say because he's wanting to emphasize that to have a projection, the projection projects a name and a term, a name and what it does. Like when we say this thing's a pen, in that experience, pen is not just the name of the thing, but we understand pen is a writing instrument. It has these 2 aspects, name and term. So one reason they say that Buddha said no marks at all, is because it's the appearing and what we believe that they mean. both of those are from projections. And then some other commentary says, well, the first marks say the physical body. Yeah, we're talking about the physical body. No, sorry, I'm getting losing my track. The second reason he says no marks at all is that he wants us to understand that the emptiness body also is projected. I said that already. So the two no marks at all is to make it clear that the appearing body is the marks of the appearing body have no nature of their own, and the essence body, the emptiness of the no marks, has no nature of its own as well. Okay, you'll see it in the reading. So how do we apply emptiness and wisdom to everything? We talked about it in terms of the unpleasant experience of yelling boss, but apply it to some pleasant experience. And what does it mean to apply our understanding of emptiness to something pleasant that we want? And Geshe-la's example was curious. I thought he'd talk about, I don't know, apple pie or something delicious. And he said it's like desire, sexual desire. Maybe, you're attracted to somebody's wife and you're so attractive, and your wrong believes, well, that's no problem. We can have this relationship and it won't interfere, and we can both have a little pleasure and a little fun, and it won't hurt anybody. And so you set about to attract the person, and maybe you do actually have this affair and you get this pleasure out of this experience. We're thinking that the pleasure of the experience has come from that successful ability to woo this person from their partner and have a good time with them. But when we understand emptiness and karma, we would understand that no, if any pleasure does come from my relations with that person, that's ripening results of past having brought someone else happiness in a relationship. And that would mean that my interfering with this person's committed relationship has just made seeds in my mind for, in fact, not ever being able to, or having great difficulty in having a relationship that's pleasurable, or even having a relationship at all, finding one at all, because of interfering with somebody else's. And so the wisdom would be, I'm attracted, they're committed, doesn't matter how attracted. Because to interfere with somebody else's partnership happiness can't bring me happiness, even if it seems like it did at the time. And so to choose to refuse, to give in to that urge, because of understanding the seeds I would plant by doing so would perpetuate samsara. And so I refuse to do that, is applying our wisdom in the face of going after something pleasant. It's a little different. Like, I have trouble relating to that. It's a little different in terms of, I don't know, there's something that we want. And, like the apple pie. The apple pie, there's one slice left. And it's like everybody's had their pie. One slice is not enough for everybody else to have more pie. I'm waiting for that piece of pie to go away so I can wash the dishes. Why don't I just eat it? And I do. And along comes somebody else and they go, what happened to that piece of pie? I was saving it special. Oops, right? It seemed harmless enough. But then if everybody in the household is bodhisattva, that little slice of pie is going to stay there forever. and you never get to wash the dish. Or maybe instead, you take it and you go serve it to somebody. Well, nobody else is home. I'm the only one here. Great. Cut it in half, take it outside, leave it for the stray dogs, have a bite, dedicate it, wash the dish. Seems so minor, but it's just a different state of mind than just, oh, I'll gobble that because I want it. Versus thinking it through and then gobbling it, right? You get to have some of it either way, but share it. Somehow share it, even the last piece, the last bite. All right. There, thank you for the extra 10 minutes. We are done with class 3. Pretty sure this is the end, yeah. Okay. So, good job. Remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We learned a lot that we will use sooner or later to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So be happy with yourself, please. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hand. Recall your own precious holy guides. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom. And may it be so. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for doing your papers. Rejoicing in that. I could be wrong, but I believe Tushita is the Sanskrit word for oakman. Thanks for asking. Heaven above all. All right. Thank you. This is Thursday. See you Sunday, right? We're Sunday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Meditating. Bye bye.